Hi, this is Joan, and what you're looking at is the book of Lamech of Cain. The reason why I am showing it right now is because I had mentioned Naamah and her father Lamech, and how Lamech had married. Lamech was from the Cain lineage, and he married two women from the Sethite line. Now, it is written that he forced himself on them. He went and got them. And I think that is from the forgotten books of Adam and Eve, or the forbidden books of Adam and Eve. And also, it told you Lamech himself wrote this, according to this translation or whatever. And he described what he looked like and also Naamah. So I thought that since it's not a book most people have heard of or anything, I thought you might be interested. So I'm going to read through some of the chapters. Now, I think the editor's note answers a lot of questions, so let me read that for you first. The Book of Lamech of Cain is now available for all scholars. This tome has been particularly difficult to secure throughout history. There are two reasons for its scarcity that I understand at this point. One, there is a similarly titled Book of Lamech about Noah's father. An almost complete copy was found with the Dead Sea Scrolls. Number two, church leaders are deeply concerned with the blasphemous history of the antediluvian line of Cain in the book of Lamech of Cain. As I concluded with the lost book of King Og, the suppression of the book of Lamech of Cain has to do with this disclosure of spiritual truth. The key spiritual knowledge in the book of Lamech of Cain exposes critical cracks in basic Christian theology. Father Sargent's translation is at this time the strongest that I have read of the original Ugaritic. He has taken some approved liberties, but the overall message of the text comes across well. I apologize for breaks in the text. I will cite them in brackets. I will also transcribe what Father Sargent was unable to translate as follows. Regarding speculative text, it was decided between Father Sargent and myself that any italicized words represent broader translations. All translation liberties taken have been cleared by Father Sargent and his direct Catholic superiors. The Book of Lamech of Cain is currently somewhere in the world, yet as of this printing, neither I nor Father Ichabod Sargent have laid our naked eyes upon it or have any idea of where it has been hidden. This translation of the Book of Lamech of Cain is the result of a series of powerful conversations that I've had with Father Cliff, Father Esau Martin, and of course Father Ichabod Sargent. Even though I no longer practice the faith, I must cite that I have been particularly moved by many of the sermons that I attended at the End Times Ministries Church. For more information, go to www.endtimesministrieschurch.com. Lastly, when reading the book of Enoch of Cain, it's good to realize that the world that is shown is no more. The world of Cain, Tubal-Cain, Lamech, Uval, and Naamah was drowned and washed away. Even though Matthew 27:34 implies that the days of Noah will return, I have found great peace in the fact that the specific individuals and their ilk documented the book of Lamech of Cain will never walk the face of the earth again. And that is by Dimon, May 2019, Santa Cruz, California. He has a message to the student which reads, in Genesis chapter 4, Cain killed Abel. God then marked Cain, reminding all with that blemish that Cain would be avenged sevenfold if anyone killed him. There were 7 generations, all of them damned. Adam and Eve had another son and named him Seth, and his is the pure bloodline that leads to the ark and further on to Christ himself. Luke 3:23 through 38. The simplest way to present this book is to point to the obvious. There are two books of Lamech, one that is studied and one that isn't. One was mostly reassembled and tells a story about an antediluvian descendant of Seth named Lamech. However, the book of Lamech of Cain follows an immoral descendant of Cain named Lamech. Now, before I go on, I want to point out that a lot of times when people read the curse of Cain, that he would be avenged sevenfold, they are looking at it as he would be avenged 7 times. I agree with what is written here, that it is telling you that he would be avenged in the 7th generation. And when you read the Bible, that is what happened. He was taken down by his descendant who lived in the 7th generation named Lamech. And also, as has already been pointed out by the editor here, there were two Lamechs. There was a Lamech from the Seth line, and there was a Lamech from the Cain line. This is the Lamech from the Cain line. So let's continue on. In time, I will have more to say on the subject by the Ichabod Sargent, Hammersmith, London. The Book of Lamech, Chapter 1, The Desolation After Creation. This is the book of Lamech, who lived in the city of Enoch, who was the son of Methuselah, son of Mehujael, son of Ired, son of Enoch, son of Cain, son of Adam. God ignores the line of Cain. Cain, the forefather of Lamech, who was marked with leprous whiteness, for God had said, whomever slays Cain shall have vengeance visited upon their head sevenfold. As Cain's bloodline cried from the ground, some leprous whiteness was made a sign that was visited upon all of Cain's descendants, as it was their inheritance for 7 generations. With this marked inheritance, Cain's descendants sought to do all that was wicked on the land in the sight of the Lord, for they had been marked by him. For the descendants of Cain had received upon themselves the damnation which was the fair portion of Cain's sin. And God refused to be angered by Cain's wickedness, for Cain was not forgiven. And the descendants of Cain practiced manner of evil, and that shall not be forgiven unto men. So God ignored the line of Cain, for they were of no use to him. The state of the earth. And evil was in man's touch, so all the land touched by Cain and his marked descendants was brought unto desolation. And hell's breath was upon the land like a cloud, and there was no goodness or good man to stop it. Therefore great darkness dwelled upon the earth, for it was the first evil season, and the rocks themselves groaned with the groanings of mortally wounded men. And all mankind needed some rest that time, for mankind stood all their days restrained, supported between the dead and the living. The great beasts of the field rooted into the land in the heat of wrath and passion, pushed out their hatred and fury as fire upon the earth. Upon this violence both men and beasts were wounded as unto death, and healed often, for wounds in that time healed quickly. God comforts the earth. The days of the earth were shadow with no hope, cruelly attacked and made low, mortally wounded, and her pain was unending. Sorrow was the earth's, and the streams of water that sprung from her ground offered false hope and were bitter. All of mankind was shamed by the state of the earth. All were of her sorrow and of her withering. Yet earth was treated as a stranger that mankind did not welcome as a guest. She was naked, and mankind would not clothe her. She was sick and in prison, and mankind did not care. And God spoke to the earth, do not weep for mankind yet, bemoan her not, for the time will come that you will weep 40 days. and 40 nights, and his stain has been cleansed, and you will be restored. So, according to this, mankind had been warned. The Cain line even knew about Noah's, what was going to happen um, during the flood. So, chapter 2, Lamech's youth. And the roads and paths were such that no fowl knew, nor had vultures seen them. And upon these paths one could meet man, giant, or son of God. For this was the time when the sons of God came and mingled with the marked descendants of Cain and the line of Seth. And there was no righteousness in the marked bloodline of Cain until the time of Lamech, and there was none after. Young Lamech questions creation. As a child, in the center of the city called Enoch, Lamech questioned his father Methuselah on the history of the earth, for young Lamech was distraught that there was no forgiveness for the marked bloodline of Cain. Lamech asked, "Did God not say, 'Let there be light,' and there was light? Did God call the light day and the darkness night? Did God create a firmament in the midst of the waters and divide the waters from the waters? Was there a firmament above? Was that firmament named by God to be heaven?" Methuselah then answered, "Nothing hovered above the face of the waters, and now sin lies at the door. Its desire is for you, but you should rule over it." Lamech then asked, "And who did my ancestor Cain take from Nod as a wife, that she conceived and bore Enoch? What is the name of the woman whom Cain met?" And Methuselah stretched forth his hands toward the people of the city of Enoch, and said, "Who is my mother, and who are my brethren? Behold, my mother and brethren, and behold, those that surrounded them were in the hundreds, with the marked skin." Young Lamech's frustration with Methuselah. Well, before we go on to that next section, I want you to notice the city Enoch. He says that he is in the city of Enoch. Well, there is a city, an ancient city, I think it's in South America, called Tenochtitlan, and that actually means the land of Enoch. So I kind of think that maybe that is where the land of Nod, where Cain was sent. Maybe that's where that was. But anyway, let me continue. Young Lamech's frustration with Methuselah. And Lamech's questions never brought about answers from Methuselah that satisfied, and as Lamech grew older, he became bitter in his soul. For Lamech knew that God did not smile upon him because of his ancestor Cain and the mark 4s. Strange. Lamech seeks the descendants of Seth. As a young man, Lamech sought the descendants of Seth to learn how to worship the Lord. Of all the descendants of Seth, Jared, the father of Enoch, who was caught up, was the only one who would speak with Lamech. "How can the Lord see favor in me?" Lamech asked Jared. And Jared showed Lamech how to give praise and thanks, and how to dress and burn sacrifice that pleases the Lord. And from time forward Lamech prayed to the God of Adam fervently in secret. But because the mark of Cain up on and the land he was in, God chose not to look at Lamech and cursed. Now I myself, you have to remember that this book was written by someone who is telling you he's from a cursed line. So I think that you have to really take what he's saying with a grain of sand or salt or whatever that expression is, because I don't think that God, well, I don't know, but I don't think that God would just turn his back on people who were on a person who was trying to serve him. But that's something to consider. Let me continue. Then Lamech did as much right as possible within the corrupt land. He gazed upon the evil, but did not participate in it. Lamech did not rape, and he did not steal. Lamech did not turn his body over to the spirits or giants for defilement. Lamech would not enter the temples for pleasure, or drink any of the portions that were offered to him. Lamech did not worship the sons of God as the others did, For the sons of God practiced divination, spells, resurrection that was unknown to Lamech, damnation,